For the first time this morning, custom officials will allow reporters inside two detention centers on the Mexican border. They hold children who entered the U.S. illegally on their own. 47,000 have crossed the U.S. border since last June. Vicente Arenas is on Capitol Hill, where some of the children are telling him why they came here. Vicente, good morning.
Good morning. We sat down and talked to two sisters who crossed the border last summer. They're part of the first wave of immigrants we're now seeing cross the border in Texas. All smiles and dressed in their Sunday best, it's hard to imagine what these girls went through to get from Honduras to the U.S.
You hid in boxes inside of a truck.
Yeah.
You were inside a box.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
You couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
The 15-year-old and her 10-year-old sister say they were living in fear.
So people would break into your house.
Yeah.
And they would pull you out of your house.
Yeah.
They robbed your cousin on the way to the bank.
Yeah.
No queremos.
Their mother was worried something much worse would happen, so she paid a smuggler $10,000 to bring the girls to the United States. She says it was too risky for them to stay in Honduras.
What do you want for your daughters?
Deseo que sean algo en este país.
I want them to be something in this country, get ahead, she said, not clean houses like me, and have a career. The children left the Honduran capital in May of last year and illegally crossed into Guatemala and Mexico. When they made it to the Texas-Mexico border, the girls stayed in a stash house full of men for nearly a week.
What were you thinking when you were inside that house waiting? ¿Qué estabas pensando cuando estabas en esa casa esperando?
Que los hombres me iban a hacer algo a mí.
That you were afraid the men were going to do something to you.
Sí.
The men were one thing, the Rio Grande was another.
The scariest part was the river, crossing the river.
Yeah, because it's too much big.
It was too big.
Yeah.
After crossing into the U.S., they were picked up by Border Patrol agents in Texas. They were then sent to a foster home in Michigan for 4 months. Their mother, who was already living in Maryland, hadn't seen her daughters for 8 years. Annie Wilson runs the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service in Baltimore. She says reuniting with a parent is the first step in a long process.
We do need to respond to the emergency, but we also need to put into place protection for these kids in the long term.
So far, no one has contacted the girl's family for any kind of deportation hearing. It could be years before they know if their request for asylum is granted. Both immigration and advocates and opponents say that lawmakers here in Washington have to do more to reform immigration laws and send out a clear message that more must be done and that simply getting here does not guarantee citizenship. Gail?
Very interesting piece, Vicente.
It was. And heartbreaking to see what they went through, but they're here and they're safe.
Notice how the young girl did all the talking.
Yeah. Glad they're okay.